The moment my back hit the cold floor of the Baltimore Museum of Contemporary Art, I knew Caleb Rowan wanted to make an example out of me. 2 security guards gripped my arms, hauling me through the glittering crowd, while my manager stood tall in his tailored charcoal suit, laughing loud enough for donors to turn and stare. "That painting is mine," I shouted, my voice tearing at the edges. "I made it when I was 10 years old." Caleb's laugh sharpened. "She is unstable," he announced, raising his glass as if offering a toast. "Please ignore her. Staff sometimes get confused." Gasps flickered around us. A few guests whispered, their diamond earrings catching the lights, their champagne flutes frozen halfway to their lips. I twisted against the guard's hands, desperate to stay in view of the canvas hanging behind Caleb, the crooked blue strokes, the uneven yellow sun, the child's handwriting I recognized like a heartbeat. "Check it." I tried again. "Check the back." He never checked the back of the canvas, for a fraction of a second. The whole room paused. Even the quartet in the corner missed a beat. But then Caleb's smirk returned, slow and poisonous, as if he were savoring my humiliation. "Get her out," he said, "now." My heels scraped the floor as the guards pulled harder. A donor murmured something under her breath. Another one leaned toward Caleb, asking whether he was sure everything was under control. He assured them it was. He assured them I meant nothing. I kept my eyes locked on the painting until the museum doors swallowed me whole. My pulse thudded with fury. That canvas, my canvas, was priced at $300,000. And the man who discarded me had built his career on pieces exactly like it. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. My breath shook. My hands wouldn't stay still. Everything inside me burned with the need to go back in, to make someone listen, to force him to tell the truth. But for that moment, all I could do was stand on the museum steps, replaying the scene that had just destroyed my job, my dignity, and the thin silence I had lived in for years. Earlier that day, I had no idea any of this was coming. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Revengeaita. It draws inspiration from the quiet injustices faced by women who are overlooked, dismissed, or strategically silenced in their workplaces. This narrative follows a woman who refuses to stay invisible, reclaiming her voice in the one moment she was expected to fall apart. Every character, event, and detail is designed to illuminate resilience, self-worth, and the courage to confront those who profit from silence. Earlier that afternoon, I was moving between clusters of donors with a tray balanced against my palm, trying to keep my shoulders loose the way the training manual said. Caleb's voice crackled in my earpiece, sharp as ever. "Marin, keep moving. Do not hover. Do not engage." "Yes, Caleb," I murmured, even though he rarely bothered to respond. I stepped around a pair of board members debating acquisitions and offered champagne. Neither looked at me. That was normal. The less they remembered my face, the smoother my shift usually went. I turned toward the center hall, then stopped so suddenly the glasses on my tray clinked together. It was hanging on the main wall, lit from above like something sacred. A crooked little house, a bright blue sky smudged at the edges, yellow sun rays spreading too far, reaching into the corners like fingers. My breath thinned. Every stroke was familiar, the way a scar is familiar. A woman beside me noticed I had frozen. "Everything all right? Yes," I whispered, my throat dry. Her eyes followed mine. Charming piece. Very raw. Raw. I painted that word into it before I even knew what raw meant. I stepped closer, my tray trembling in my hands. I could almost smell the paint from that summer at the East Baltimore Community Center, the room with peeling linoleum floors, and the instructor who let us mix colors even when we made a mess. I was 10 years old and trying to paint a place that felt like home. A small plaque rested below the frame. Artist unknown, $300,000. The number punched the air from my lungs. "That is mine," I heard myself say, so quietly it felt like speaking in a dream. A man passing behind me frowned. "Did you say something?" "No," I replied quickly, clutching the tray. Nothing. But inside, everything was shifting, recognition, fear, and the soft memory of my mother's voice. "If you ever doubt yourself, look at what you create." Marin. I stood in front of the painting until someone brushed past me. Then I forced my feet to move, though my pulse stayed behind, beating against the glass frame. How do you confront a room full of powerful people when you have nothing but a memory? I edged closer to the painting, gripping the tray so tightly my fingers ached. The brushstrokes felt louder now, as if the memory beneath them was trying to speak. I leaned in just enough to see the slight swell of the canvas where the backing hid what I already knew was written there. When I was 10, my mother had knelt beside me at our kitchen table, guiding my hand as I pressed the crayon across the back of the canvas. "Write it here," she whispered. "Just for us, for Mom. So you do not forget my dreams, Marin." It was not something a curator would guess, not something an appraiser would invent. It was our secret, tucked behind the paint like a heartbeat. A wave of heat flushed through me. Someone had taken this from that little girl, and someone else was now selling it for $300,000. A cluster of donors moved behind me. And then I heard Caleb's voice, smooth, confident, meant to impress. "These pieces were abandoned in old community centers," he said. "I salvaged them myself. No records, no artists. Just raw brilliance waiting for someone who could recognize it." One of the donors laughed. "You truly have an eye for the forgotten." My throat tightened. Caleb had never set foot in the East Baltimore program where I painted this. He did not even know it existed. And his voice carried this rehearsed story as if he had lived it. I turned toward him. He was shaking hands, smiling broadly, lying without a single tremor. The tray in my hands dipped slightly. I straightened it and stepped forward. He looked up just as I reached him. "Marin," he said curtly. "You are lingering again. Keep moving." "No," I said. His eyebrows rose. "Excuse me, that painting over there," I said quietly. "It is not abandoned. It is mine." His polite expression flickered, just for a breath, before he covered it with a patronizing smile. "I think you are mistaken," he said. I held his gaze, feeling something inside me shift. What if the only proof you have is hidden where no one wants to look? Caleb stared at me for a moment, as if deciding whether I was worth the effort of pretending to be kind. Then he lifted his chin and turned toward the nearest cluster of donors. "Ladies and gentlemen," he called out, "you will not believe this." His voice carried through the hall, warm and booming, the way it always did when he wanted attention. A dozen faces turned toward us. My pulse beat hard in my throat. "This young woman," he continued, gesturing at me with a flourish, "claims that one of our featured pieces, the one priced at $300,000, is hers." Soft laughter rippled through the group. Caleb leaned into it, letting the amusement swell. "Marin," he said loudly enough for half the gallery to hear, "you are a server, a good one, usually, but this is delusional. It is mine," I said, forcing my voice steady. "I painted it when I was 10. Caleb threw his head back and laughed, full and theatrical. "Impossible," he declared. "Absolutely impossible. You expect us to believe that a child's doodle you made in some schoolroom is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars." A donor in a silver dress murmured, "She looks serious." Caleb snapped his fingers at security. "Remove her, she is disrupting the event." A guard approached, and Caleb leaned closer to me, lowering his voice enough that only I could hear. "You are done here. Hand in your badge on your way out." He didn't wait for my reply. He had already turned to reassure the donors. "My apologies. Stress sometimes affects the staff." The guard's hand closed around my arm as I was pulled across the polished floor. Someone behind me whispered. She recognized it too quickly. That wasn't acting. The whisper passed like a spark, too small to ignite anything yet, but enough to reach me before the doors swung open. When someone publicly tears down your truth, how do you make the world listen? I sat on the curb outside the museum with my apron still twisted around my waist, my hands shaking so hard I had to press them between my knees. People streamed past me, dressed in silk, velvet, and confidence. I felt stripped of everything: my job, my dignity, and the one chance I had to say the truth out loud. A voice in my head whispered, "Let it go, walk away." But another voice, my mother's, rose above it. "Do not forget your dreams." Marin. I wiped my face with the sleeve of my uniform. She would not want me to quit, I said aloud, my voice raw. "Not now." My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from a coworker. "Caleb told everyone you snapped." "I am sorry, snapped." That was how he framed it. That was how he always framed anything he could not control. I opened the museum's website, scrolling past Caleb's smiling headshot. Below it, a title caught my eye. Director of Youth Outreach Acquisitions. My stomach tightened. That program had been the same pipeline where my painting disappeared. He had been collecting art from community programs for years, repackaging them as anonymous gems, while profiting off the stories he erased. I stared at his bio until my breath steadied. If he wanted to hide the truth behind polished lies, then I needed a way in that he could not dismiss with a laugh. I opened a blank email and began typing under a name I had never used before. Helena Merritt, private collector, interested in scheduling a viewing of the youth collection, budget flexible. I read it twice, then hit send. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Caleb's assistant sounded thrilled. Ms. Merritt, we can arrange a private viewing for you tomorrow afternoon. Caleb is delighted. I closed my eyes, the tremor in my hands finally slowing. I was going back inside, but not as the girl he mocked. Would you dare walk back into the place that humiliated you, knowing the truth depends on it? I returned to the Baltimore Museum of Contemporary Art, dressed in clothes borrowed from my roommate, dark slacks, a fitted blazer, glasses large enough to hide half my face. The receptionist straightened when I gave the name Helena Merritt. Within seconds, Caleb emerged from the hallway with the kind of smile he reserved for donors and board members. Ms. Merritt, he said warmly, offering his hand. A pleasure. I hear you are interested in one of our most promising outsider pieces. His voice did not carry even a trace of the mockery from the night before. I shook his hand, feeling the old humiliation burn beneath my skin. I would like to see it up close, I said, especially the back. He blinked once too long, just as I expected. The back. These works are professionally sealed. There is really nothing to see. I collect inscriptions, I replied, folding my hands calmly. Hidden notes, signatures, anything that reveals the history. If the piece has nothing, then I will simply move on. His jaw tightened for a moment before he smoothed it away. Of course, follow me. He led me to a private viewing room and set the painting on the table with practiced care. Up close, the brushstrokes looked even more familiar, like a language only the child version of me could have written. Lovely, is it not, he said. The anonymity gives it mystery. I want to see the back, I repeated. He exhaled sharply, then retrieved a small toolkit from the cabinet. As he loosened the nails, he tried to distract me with talk of provenance, market value, and collectors I had never heard of. I said nothing. The brown paper peeled away with a soft rip. Caleb lifted it, then stopped. There it was, my childish handwriting, my message, my name. He went pale. This proves nothing, he whispered. Anyone could have written that. I looked at him, steady and unshaken. The lie was right there between us, uncovered and breathing. What happens when a lie is exposed, but the liar refuses to break? I walked out of the museum with my phone clutched so tightly, my knuckles hurt. The photos of the inscription glowed on the screen, my uneven handwriting, the message to my mother, the proof Caleb had hoped would stay hidden forever. I sat on a bench across the street and dialed a number I had saved earlier that morning. A Baltimore investigative journalist named Dana Hollis. She had spent years reporting on misused arts funding and neglected community programs. She answered on the second ring. This is Dana. My name is Marin Kessler. I said, I think I have something you've been looking for. Her tone sharpened. Go on. I told her about the painting, the price tag, the lie Caleb fed to donors, and the message he tried to bury. When I finished, Dana was silent for several seconds. I have received anonymous tips about youth artwork being resold, she said finally, but no one ever had proof. Do you have photos? Yes, send them. I forwarded everything. A minute later, I heard her inhale sharply. This is the first verifiable evidence I have seen. Marin, if this is real, there are more victims. There are, I whispered. I grew up in one of those programs. Dana suggested we meet at a small cafe near the inner harbor. When she walked in, she already had files pulled up on her laptop. Caleb's acquisition records are thin, she said, tapping the screen, but not thin enough. He listed dozens of works as donations from discontinued community programs. Most of them came from the East Side, the same center I attended. I said. She nodded. Let's find out who else was there. Within an hour, we had tracked down 3 former students. One of them, a woman named Lila, joined our call from her apartment when Dana showed her a blurred image of another painting Caleb had sold. Lila gasped. He covered my name, she said. That is mine. The room felt suddenly smaller. The story was no longer just about me. If your truth starts a fire. Are you ready for how far it might spread? Dana's expose went live on a gray Thursday morning. By noon, my phone buzzed nonstop messages from coworkers, former classmates, even strangers. Headlines flashed across local feeds. Youth art stolen and resold by museum director. Community demands investigation. Baltimore artist comes forward with proof. At the cafe where Dana and I waited, a man at the next table scrolled through the article aloud. $300,000 for a painting taken from a 10-year-old. This is sick. Dana gave a tight nod. People are paying attention. My hands shook slightly. Caleb will not stay quiet. He did not. By late afternoon, he released a statement through the museum's social media channels. Marin Kessler, he wrote, is a disgruntled former employee fabricating claims to harm my reputation. All artworks were acquired legally, Dana muttered. There it is, the character assassination. But 2 hours later, she received an encrypted message. No name, no signature. Just a file of screenshots from internal museum emails. She clicked one open. Caleb's words glared back at us. Remove all youth program labels. Delete any reference to community origins. These must remain anonymous for market value. My stomach twisted. Who sent that? Someone inside, Dana said. Someone who has been watching him for a long time. She uploaded the evidence to the follow-up article. Within minutes, comments exploded, donors demanding refunds, community leaders calling for immediate action, and staff members hinting at more hidden misconduct. By evening, the museum board issued a public statement. A formal hearing will be held. Director Caleb Rowan is required to appear. When Dana read the announcement aloud, she looked at me with a steadiness that felt like a hand on my shoulder. He cannot talk his way out of this anymore. I exhaled, the sound shaky and unfamiliar. The truth had grown too loud for him to swallow. When a powerful man panics, how far will he go to rewrite the truth? The hearing was held in a long conference room on the top floor of the museum. Rows of chairs filled with donors, journalists, and board members formed a narrow aisle that led directly to the table where Caleb sat. His suit was crisp, but the tightness in his jaw betrayed him. I took my seat behind Dana, close enough to hear every breath he drew. The board chair tapped the microphone. Mr. Rowan, you are required to authenticate a selection of artworks from the youth outreach acquisitions. Please proceed. Caleb cleared his throat. Of course. I am confident these concerns will be resolved quickly. The first painting was brought forward. A curator slid a toolkit across the table. Please remove the backing. Caleb hesitated, then pried up the nails. When the paper peeled away, a faint name, half scrubbed but legible, curved across the back. A ripple moved through the room. That name was never in our records. A board member said sharply. Caleb wiped his forehead. It must be a mistake. The second painting followed. Beneath the paper, a date from an after-school program glared up at him, the same program he had denied under oath. Murmurs rose. This is not what it appears, Caleb insisted, voice breaking at the edges. The third painting was placed in front of him. When he opened it, a small sticker from the East Baltimore Community Arts Center clung to the canvas, a center he had once claimed never existed. His hands trembled. Someone planted these. Enough, the board chair said. Bring in the final piece. My painting landed softly on the table. I leaned forward as Caleb removed the backing. The inscription appeared instantly, bright against the faded canvas. For Mom, so you do not forget my dreams. Marin? Caleb's face crumpled. I can explain. No one asked him to. Everyone had already seen enough. What do you say to the person who tried to erase you now that the room finally sees you? Caleb did not return to his seat after the final inscription was revealed. He stood there, eyes darting between the board members and the donors who had once praised him. The board chair spoke quietly but firmly, effective immediately. Mr. Rowan, you are removed from your position. You are barred from all future acquisitions, programming, and representation under this institution. A donor rose. We expect restitution for every falsified piece you sold. Another added, your name has no place in Baltimore's art community anymore. Caleb opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Someone escorted him away, and the door shut behind him with a soft click that felt like a final verdict. Dana touched my shoulder. It is over, Marin. Not everything, I thought, but enough. The board returned my painting that same afternoon. The curator handed it to me gently. It belongs with you, she said. I traced the crooked yellow sun with my fingertip. I want this displayed, I told her, but at the East Baltimore Arts Program. And this time, my name stays on the front, she nodded. We will honor that. A week later, the museum invited me to speak at a community forum on creative ownership. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I accepted. Standing behind the podium, my painting leaning beside me, I looked out at students, artists, and teachers from the neighborhoods I grew up in. I was 10 when I painted this. I told them, someone stole it. And for a long time, I believed they stole a piece of me too. But the truth is simpler. No one can erase you once you learn to sign your name in your own voice. After the event, a little girl approached me. I want to paint something big, she said. You should, I told her. And keep your signature where no one can touch it. The life lesson I carry now is this: courage is not loud. Sometimes it begins quietly. With one small truth you refuse to surrender, no matter who tries to bury it. If your past suddenly reappeared in front of you, what part of it would you fight to reclaim?